Let me jump in and bring up one of the latest action is that I think they say that is it the Lagos New York routes? I don't know if they say it's under suspension right now until they take a look at certain things, and some of the other routes may suffer the same fate. So that's contrary to what you just highlighted at them looking at some of the cost drivers, because if that route is under suspension, isn't that revenue that is also being held
up?
It
may not be. That's what I just said, that the 55% market share may just be from 3 routes. It may not even be from the Lagos New York route, may not be a route that is profitable to them.
No, this business is a big one. It's one seen as an economies of scale.
Yes.
If you look at other ancillaries that are attached to a business like this, how much of ancillary businesses have affected the main operations of ARIC?
Yeah. Some of the things that the team will look at also will be part of the ancillary revenue, like baggage, mileage sales. Airlines make up to 10% of their revenue from ancillary. So every airline will put a close eye on extra baggage charges. So if I were
I see that ranks highest here.
Yes,
if I were the key ancillary revenue component.
Yes, if I were part of the team that is coming in, all the leakages that go to baggage and all the extra little revenue that supposed to come to the airline will be blocked for the airline to make a lot of money. So these are some of the things that the team should look at. And then the team will need to also sit down to pursue cost drivers, to cut costs, eliminate things that are very expensive for them from department to department. Like for example, in the account department, I expect them to quickly reorganize the place and establish the receivable and the payable. Payable means that things that you have to pay at a certain date, 30th, like for example, fuel costs.
Yeah, I'm just looking through that slide now about the key ancillary revenue component. This is what you talk as global airlines outside the US.
Yes, outside.
But back home here, I'm not sure I see them talk about sale of miles if you're traveling. I don't see them talk about the travel, retail. These airlines don't handle this. The third party who handle this.
That's why I am suggesting that this is one of the things that the new team need to do to bring in more revenue, because they were not actually doing this before. Or if they were doing this, then the revenue would not have been coming to the direction that it ought to come to. So it's an area that they have to look at.
Let's talk about the cost structure before we go to break now. In terms of the airline cost structure, what key components should we be looking at?
In the cost structure, maintenance should be like 14%. Maintenance should be like 14%. So if I were in the team that is coming to take over the airline, when I bring the airline financials, the first thing that I'll look at, I will go to maintenance line and look at how many percent have we been doing. If we've been doing 25%, 30%, where the average everywhere else should be 14%, of course I'll do another round of investigation to find out why am I doing 25% instead of 14%.
Does that come under what you call the operational audit?
No. This is just financial reengineering. In turnaround, what you do is that you just chase cost and try to drop costs. So if I'm doing fueling 45%, when industrial average is 30 to 35%, I need to know why. Why do I have this line this high? If I'm having my spare parts and maintenance from a particular source, of course, as a new team, I will quickly sit down and restructure the contract. So after looking at all the things that drive cost in the airline and identifying them and making sure that they are in tune with industry standards.
Okay.
And So I will move to the various departments themselves.
Let's take a look at, yes, they're in this situation now. What else should they be doing?
When they have actually identified the cost drivers, and then they move to the various departments to cut the costs, these costs, then in accounts, one of the major things that they should do is to establish or to reorganize the payable and the receivable departments. You know, in Nigerian business, people don't just come and pay you, people will owe you. So you have to go chasing to get your debt.
Doesn't that depend on the way you structure your business?
That's why I'm saying that since we're doing a reorganization, restructuring, okay, so we don't assume, we assume that things were not right before. And our mindset and the hypothesis is actually to put the things that were not done properly well into place.
So now people should not be owing them?
Yes, of course, just as they won't owe people, so people should not owe them too.
So I think the second part is key. They not owing people.
People
because
too
we pay for our tickets,
yes,
that's right.
And people too don't owe them. No, they have other contractors and other suppliers that you may not see that actually owe them. So they need to go establish a receivable department to chase after their own debt.
Why do you bring the Malaysia example here?
The Malaysian airline actually had two bankruptcy and one receivership in the history, 44-year history of this airline.
But they're still afloat.
They're still afloat. In 2005, they had loss of, as of 2005, the loss was 1.7 billion ringgits, which is about $500 million US. And what they quickly did was that they quickly hired a team that will come in and turn around the airline. So and what the team did was that the team quickly sat down to do due diligence and identify four KPIs that were wrong with this airline. The yields were low, the inefficient network, just as I said before, that some of the network of ARIC may not be very efficient. Then they had poor cost control. And then not only that, the team looked at the 10 years financials of this airline. So and they just did one thing. They went for cost and they drove down the high operating cost. In 2 years, the airline made an equivalent of 250 million US dollars. In 2 years, came back to profit. But I must quickly warn that because you have restructured, or because you are under receivership, and because you intend to do a turnaround, you may come out from. Doesn't mean that you may not have another bankruptcy again. This is airline business. So except you run the airline in such a way that you constantly monitor the routes, how they are doing. You look at the data, and then you take decisions that are evidence-based, not based on perception.
Okay, well, those are some of the highlights and things that we're keeping our tabs closely on ARIC, especially now that they say no, they're going to fight this takeover by AMCON and Cotton. We'll see how all of those eventually play themselves out. Well, I'd like to thank you for coming on today. Omar Edemeka is an airline pilot and transport consultant. Thank you for coming on today. Well, that's the show. We thank you all for watching and for sending in your comments. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Many thanks indeed for watching. I am Gimba Umar.
I'm Neo Taibe. Thank you.